Hey besties, it is time to do my February wrap up. February was such an interesting month for me. I feel like the month is already short, so it goes by so quick, but I was also in a little reading slump. I did still read 7 books, which is amazing in the month, but I wanted to get through more books, but it's totally okay. I am looking forward to March, but before I start with the wrap up, I wanted to share the books that were on my TBR and whether I got through them or not. In February, I had 8 books on my TBR. I only read 3 out of the 8, so I didn't do that great, but I did start a lot of them. The first book that I had on my list was A Court of Wings and Ruin. I'm actually starting that book. I just don't know if I'll be able to finish it in March, but hopefully I can. And then I have Dance of Thieves. This is, I think, the second time I have it on my TBR now, and I didn't get to this one either. And then I also have Love Redesigned, which I did start, but I'm reading that one in March for a video, so that one is on my March TBR again. Then I had Ruthless Vows. That was the first book that I finished in February. And then I have Love on the Brain, and I didn't get to this one because there was another book that I read for Valentine's Day instead. Then I had Betting on You by Lynn Painter, and I did get to this one. I also had The 7-Year Slip on this list. This is a read, and I did finish this one. So this was the book that I basically read on Valentine's Day instead of Love on the Brain. I had Killer Instinct on this list, but I managed to finish that book at the end of January, so I decided to replace that book with All In, the next book in the series, instead. And I did start that one, but then I just put it back down, so I need to pick that book up. I just don't know when yet. So now let's get into the 7 books, and I'm going to talk about them, let you guys know my thoughts. I think all of them should be in reading vlogs. The first book, like I said, I read in the month of February was Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. This book is just so pretty, and this is the second book in the Letters of Enchantment series. So the first book is Divine Rivals, and that one just blew the book community away. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but I actually loved this book more than Divine Rivals. Divine Rivals was a really good book, but this one, I just think that it was perfect. It was just the way that she wrote this book. It was so beautiful. I don't know, I connected to all of the characters. I actually love the pacing of this book and how the story wrapped up. In this one, you do get more world building, so to me, I thought that was more interesting because it kind of like had more movement in the story, whereas the first one, it was like a little bit slower for me. So this one was a little hard for me to pick up initially, but then it just got really good, and I ended up giving this book 4.5 stars. But I keep thinking about this book, so I'm wondering if I should just give this 5 stars. I think it's losing that 0.5 because it was a little slow initially for me. But regardless, this is such a good series if you guys haven't started yet. It is a YA kind of like historical romance, so it was just different for me. I don't think I've read any historical romance books prior to this series, and I loved it, so it was a good one. And I think historical romance books just make me feel like the story is a little slow, but it might be just the time period or something. And then the next book I read was a Fragile Enchantment by Alison Saff. This is the Owl Crate special edition. This book is just so pretty. If you guys watch my ultimate book video, I think I unboxed it and also read this book. This book takes place in the Regency era. I think that's how you pronounce it, but I also have never read anything like this, so I loved it because it was giving me Bridgerton, and I just really liked how this was. It was another YA book that I really enjoyed. It is a romance as well. Oh, I didn't even tell you guys what Ruthless Vows was about. This book is basically about Iris and Roman. They both work at a news station. I don't know if that's the term, but basically they have to compete to get their stories like written out there, and during this time there is a war that's happening and things are going on. I don't want to say too much because I think that it's very cool to like read this story, and it's pretty touching as well. So a lot of things are going on, but they somehow managed to fall in love, and I really like the story. A lot of things happen in this one specifically, but that's basically the premise. So I didn't tell you guys much because I don't like going into books really knowing much. So this one is about a girl that works with clothes and she sews, and she basically is hired to make clothes for the prince at the royal palace for his wedding. These articles that she's making, they have special like enchantments, so different kind of like spells casted on them, I guess, and they are just so cool. I don't know what to say because I don't want to give anything away, but the prince is basically getting married, and it's a little scandalous because he is going to fall for this person that's working for him. It is a quick like fantasy book if you want something more romance heavy. I actually gave a Fragile Enchantment 4.5 stars. That book also didn't really have like a crazy plot, and I really liked the banter, the tension, and there was also a plot twist. So in here it's giving Cinderella, Bridgerton. It's a slow burn, enemies to lovers. I would say the spice level is like a 2. Ruthless Vows, I would say spice is a 1 or 2 as well, and that's just like very minimal. And then the next book I read was on Valentine's Day. I did read the 7 Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This one is a romance book with magical realism, and it is just so interesting and deep. This one is basically about this girl that gets her late aunt's apartment, and when she stepped into it, it took her 7 years back, and she meets this guy trying to figure out why he appeared, and also she's dealing with grief. Technically both characters are dealing with grief in their own way. I thought everything about this book was just so beautiful, and this was like a 6-star read for me last year, so of course it's still an amazing book for me. I loved it like maybe even more the second time around because of all of the quotes, and like I actually annotated this book. If you guys want to check out my annotation video, this was the first book that I've ever like written in or underlined or anything like that. So going through with the annotations, I was able to see more, I guess, and I found more quotes and stuff that really stuck with me. So this book I loved, and I know that it might not be like that deep for everyone, but just for some reason this book and the message and just everything in this one connected with me, and it is just like, I don't know how to explain it, but I love this book. That book was a little sad for me to have read that on Valentine's Day. The next book I finished is The Woman in Me by Britney Spears. This is her memoir that talks about everything that she experienced growing up, like her love, her relationships, and then it talks more about the conservatorship. I don't know if I'm saying that right. It was just very touching to see her point of view. She is the first artist that I actually have ever listened to, and so I just had to read this book, and I honestly loved it. It was just also very sad, but I'm happy for her now. And then the next book that I actually finished was Betting on You by Lynn Painter, and this one is her like newest book. This is a YA romance. I thought this was just a very cute, fast read. I ended up giving this one 3 stars. It's not my favorite Lynn Painter book, but I did still enjoy this story and how they met. So basically this one is about Bailey and Charlie. They met at the airport. She thought he was like a douche, but then they actually ended up being co-workers, and it was just very interesting to see how their relationship kind of like progressed. They were able to connect with different things, so it was just very cute. It's something that I think is perfect as like a little palette cleanser, but I don't think that I'm really enjoying YA romance books anymore. It was a little bit cringy for me at some points, and I didn't really connect with the main male character. I don't think, honestly, I can't remember too much about it, but a 3 stars is still a really good rating for me. It's just a book that I did enjoy and would recommend. It's just not something that I probably would remember or think too much about. I just love Lynn Painter's books, so I wasn't mad about that. And then I actually read Behind the Net on my Kindle. This one is by Stephanie Archer. This one is a hockey like sports romance. Initially starting this book, I really enjoyed it and I saw like 5-star potentials. It was just very cute. They actually like knew each other, and now he's like in the NHL and she is hired to be his assistant. So there's like forced proximity, and I just love all of the tropes in there, but I thought it was a little bit too spicy for me towards the end. It was getting like a little bit repetitive. I just liked their relationship. It is a cute read though, but I just wanted more to the story, like more depth. At the end, I was just like, it's a 400-page book. I was getting a little tired of it. I also ended up giving that one 3 stars because I still would recommend, and I feel like some of you would enjoy that book more than me, but personally it was just an alright book for me. And then the last book that I read in the month of February was a 5-star read, and I'm just so happy with this new book. So this is a new release by Ali Hazelwood called Bride, and I'm sure you guys have seen this around the book community. This is something different by Ali Hazelwood. It is her first like paranormal romance. It was just very cool because the bride is a vampire and she is marrying a werewolf because both of their families, basically they're kind of like rivals, and so this is a marriage of convenience. I love that trope. I love how soft he was, but he is supposed to be this alpha, or he is alpha. If you want to see more of like my thoughts, then go ahead and check out This Video Ends When I Find a 5-Star Read, because this was such a good book. I read this so fast. It was so bingeable, and I just loved everything about this book. I hope that Ali Hazelwood comes out with more books like this because I would eat it up. I feel like there's a hint that there's going to be another book related to this one. So that's all I have to say, and all of the books that I read in February. I can't believe that we are in March now, but I'm happy with all of my reads, and I hope you guys had a good reading month as well. It's totally okay to be in a book slump because I was in a book slump until Bride. Stay tuned for all of my future videos. I appreciate you guys so much, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!